Jesse, got your session here. So, some really interesting things going on. I thought overall it sounded pretty nice. There was a good place for the drums, the kick and the snare. I think the bass is a little tubby, but I noticed that you did mostly cutting on that, and I think it probably could have been a little wider bandwidth with that. So, I thought, and for most, there was some volume issues, so I think it wouldn't take very long to polish this mix up to take it to sort of finished. So some things I want to draw your attention to. Mostly my problem came to do with the level of the vocals. So that if we look at if I just kind of dart around the music here for a second, so listen to the vocals here and here. Very different, right? These are kind of tucked in the mix and kind of muted sounding. And I guess a little bit warm, but they just are sort of tucked in the mix. Versus significant volume difference, and we need some consistency in the vocal there. So that's one way you can test things out. And yeah, the back half of the song is very different, but we need the vocals to have some consistency through that. The other thing that I would say is during this section right here, lots of volume issues. The keyboards, the low, the high, the ebow, the xylophone, the solos, like everything's just, I can't tell what the focus is. And this is one of those difficult sections. I mean, you can even see here on the keys, just different volumes between notes, and this ebow, what's going on here. And there's just like this, you know, that I'd like to have some reign over. So I think that's one thing. At the end, I would like the guitar solo to be a little louder during this part. And you know, because you cut some of those vocals out, so you could, you know, those background vocals, which is where that counter melody came from, because they're just kind of so background. That guitar could maybe stand out a little bit more, I think, you know, and playing with that. So what else? Okay, so over here with our sections of the drums, now we have over here low pass, not so needed. High end's not the problem weeding out. Low end is the problem of weeding out. So I don't know if that's anything that you even really need. Then we have the compressor, then we have the gate, and then we have this cut EQ. Or I'm sorry, boost. Now notice what you did here. Like so you're shelving at 5K, but look what you did. You rolled everything at 8K and above up. So that's sort of an interesting negation. So the best way to do this, to order this, I don't think this is needed, but maybe there's some bleed. Next would be the gate. So we want the gate to work with as much dynamic range as possible. If we're trying to weed out the low level information, we don't want to squash it and bring the low level information up. Then the compressor, then this boost, and then if you need to, you could put a limiter on the end. So notice that here we have the high pass, the compressor, the gate, and then the CQ. So the order for this would be something like this. Potentially either here or here. But cut out the unwanted on the low end, gate what's left, EQ what's left, compress what's left. So that would be the, and that'll sort of help everything work a little bit more efficiently. High pass, low pass, and then a compressor on the overheads. Overall, the other thing I was saying, oh, you had the cool delay on the bells. The automation going crazy there. Where are those bells? Somewhere in this area, right? Here we go. So that's kind of cool, and even a little bit more decay on that might have been nice. I would have liked overall just a little bit more effects. I think this is supposed to be, I think your reverb choices were nice. A little more, couldn't probably hurt on some of the on more of the vocals, and on the drums there's just a little bit on the snare. Remember, you can hit Command, and then hit the solo button, like I did here. So notice we can do this to all the effects. So that won't solo the effects or anything, just we will hear things in context. And notice we just have a little bit. Gating because of what's going on. A little more, that might have been nicer just overall on the mix in general. But I thought there's some really good things going on. We got some crazy automation going on here. Kind of interesting on the piano during the backward. Which is kind of fun. Then a couple other things. Did you clean up the vocal? Get rid of those. You got rid of that vocal part at the end. Oh, the distortion. So at the end, which I thought this was really cool. Notice what you're doing here. You're sending these two stereo signals to a mono distortion that's kind of turned up loud. So when you have that going, you're kind of negating the stereo effect of what's happening, right? So there's the stereo effect. But then if we bring in the mono distortion, so it might be something you think about. You could either send, you know, each one of these to its own distortion, or you could, you know, if you're separating just the distortion on the end, you could separate that where that distortion happens. I think you automated those distortions. Let's see here. Oh, they're on. Oh, you just put them. We had those on their own tracks. So the thing you could have done is either put this sans amp right on each one of these channels. And let's see, that'll change the sound quite a bit. But if we do that or something like that, and there's no blend knob, which is why we like sending them to this effect, is that you get a little dry. Then the other thing I would do, just to further lock these together, for instance, ooh, didn't mean to do that. I meant, excuse me, what is going on here? These two. I would bust these then to a new aux track and compress those together. So the idea, we want those to be locked in tight. Was there a bus 1 and 2? No, you went high. Good. So I'm just double checking. So then we can put one more compressor on here. So then what? You can see, so if we, you know, it's kind of, I mean, it's one note, blah, pretty much. So we hear that never, we can hear like one ear, if you listen on headphones, one ear or the other. By putting that on, by putting this compressor on, we lock one, so the one sound triggers the compressor to work, which locks them in, which gives us this really big stereo sound, which can have sort of cool, keeps them locked in where we want them. And then I would send this probably to a little bit of reverb to keep pushing back a little bit. So you got bus 16, which is a mono reverb, but I'm just going to send it to a little bit just to see what that sounds like. Now, I feel like these got some, there's like some low mid stuff going on, so I'd pull these back a little bit. We don't need the vocals to compete with the band, but let's hear what it sounds like in context. So I think they're still a little muddy, so I'm going to go in here and do a little EQing. See if we can just pull out some mud. See what that sounds like. I'm gonna hit it a little bit harder. So something like that. I don't know. That's kind of happening to me. But to me, that's not a lead vocal because it's just like big whole notes. So I would go back and turn up that guitar solo. But, you know, I think there's some pretty cool things going on.